Hey guys, welcome to the Behavior Techs Anonymous podcast. I am your host, Miss Ashley, and I'm a behavior tech. Let's reinforce some of my behaviors. Hello and welcome to Behavior Techs Anonymous. My name is Miss Ashley and I will be your host. And today we have a special guest. Her name is Miss Lexi. Go ahead and say hi, Lexi.
Hey, Miss Ashley. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming. So just kind of, let's just start off and I don't want to be like, tell me about yourself, but I guess so you were an RBT or you are an RBT?
I was an RBT. I started in the field before it was really considered ABA. But I started off at 18 working with the MRDD population.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually kind of found ABA throughout working in DD.
Okay, that's cool. So what did you do when you were working with that population? Give me a roadmap, step by step,
Yeah, so it was
ABA.
basically okay. So it was basically like a HAB center. So part of it was like a workshop. So individuals would come in and they'd assemble things, or they would categorize things, and they would get paid like a certain amount of money to complete these jobs. So we had one guy that was higher functioning, that would assemble flagpoles.
Okay.
And then we had another guy that would sort chess pieces. So it varied depending on their levels of functioning.
Huh. That's cool.
Yeah. So I also, it was the same job, but I did multiple things within that job. So I worked at a workshop. I worked at Broadmoor School, which is a school for individuals who are developmentally delayed. You can start as young as 4 until 22.
24 to 22. That's a big age range.
Yeah. So there were all kinds of different levels of functioning within that school.
Okay.
I also worked at this place called the Imagine program. And those were all individuals with low functioning autism. It was basically kind of like a daycare. They had workstations set up, and I'm using air quotes, but they didn't get paid for them.
Oh, great. So it was just like free labor?
Well, maybe. I guess depending on how you looked at it. Yeah, maybe. But they had some guys would cut up paper.
Okay.
Other guys would shred. So they had different little workstations, but they just didn't get paid. Okay. Probably because at that time the Imagine program was fairly new. I assume it was funded by the board of DD, but I just don't think they had a lot of funding to be able to pay the guys. Right. So it was more of a daycare.
Okay. Well, it was nice for them to give them something to do.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and the Imagine program was more for your low functioning, violent guys.
Mm-hmm.
So really, unfortunately, people who didn't get ABA. And I mean, I think at a young age, and I think we kind of have an image in our head, especially working with the population, of what that looks like as an adult.
Yeah.
And not getting ABA as a kid. So, but then again, the resources weren't there. The funding wasn't there. The research wasn't there. Yeah. So we've come a long way since then.
I think people forget how new ABA is.
Yes.
How newly widespread it is, I guess.
Yes. And even kind of the concept. So back when I was working with people with developmental disabilities, I mean, it wasn't called ABA. It was, I don't even know what it was called back then, but it wasn't ABA. That's not what they called it. I mean, so this was a while ago. And I think like as a field, I think we've grown a lot. I think we've had a lot more research, but just like there's a lot of pros to something new, there's even amounts of cons and how people view it and their perspective and whatnot.
Yeah. I agree. And there is like a lot of controversy over it. And I do feel very bad for those that have like suffered like the abuse of ABA,
Yeah.
like in the past when it was like brand new and stuff. But
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's cool. So then from there, like, I just want to know like how you found out about being an RBT, I guess. Like, because for me, like, I just kind of like fell into it. Like, it just kind of happened to me one day.
Yeah, I remember the first time I heard about ABA, and I was actually working night shift
Ugh.
at a developmental center. But it was state ran, and I mean, I guess we don't need
Yeah.
to get into all that,
Yeah.
but you can imagine.
We can.
So I actually heard about ABA through one of the queues on the house, which was basically a house manager.
Okay.
She worked nights too. And she had given me a compliment that I was good with, people with DD. And I was like, oh, wow. I used to work at Deepwood, so I had a lot of experience prior to coming to Warrensville. And she asked me if I had heard of ABA, and I had no idea, none at all. So I stuck out that job and kind of was like researching ABA while I was still there. I stuck it out for about a year and a half, and then third shift is hell, so I left.
I don't blame you. I would be too.
Yeah, third shift is awful, man. It's just so bad. And your body's never the same afterwards. I have like permanent eye bags forever, ever. So upon writing my resignation letter, I had already kind of had a job lined up for ABA. I was really excited about it just because of the psychological research behind it. And I was like, this is something I could get behind. Like I love psychology. I love human behavior. I love knowing how to help people adapt in certain situations and understand their behavior. I'm like, this will be cool. So I did a year at Epicenter. And it came really, really naturally to me. I was kind of surprised at how well, actually sounds kind of crazy when you put it this way, but at how well I was good at controlling an environment.
Yeah.
And that just kind of stuck with me, which I don't know. I mean, I don't, probably says some weird stuff about my personality, but I had a good foundation and understanding for ABA, and I guess I could connect with the kids and kind of speak their language, I guess, so to speak. Yeah. So I did ABA for, I mean, if you're counting Deepwood experience, almost 10 years. So I really watched the field like morph and change, and I saw things that I really liked, and then I saw things that I really didn't like. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I definitely understand like the being able to like control an environment, because like that was like one of the things that I just liked about, I guess, working with kids, which it does sound bad when I say it. When I'm like, yeah, I can control these kids, but like I had good instructional control. Like I taught preschool, so I had 12 to 16 little tiny humans following me around, and I was like, I can do this. This is fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah,
then like,
absolutely.
they were like, oh, well, if you work here, you're going to be one-on-one. And I was like, easy peasy.
Well, and it's kind of cool because, I don't want to use the word manipulation, but I use it in a positive way. Yeah. I mean, manipulation can be good in a lot of ways. And it was really cool to me having to get creative and having to figure out what variables I had to manipulate in order to get a response from a kid. Yeah. That was very interesting. I do realize I probably see it as very like structured and like organized. I understand it's not always about getting a response, but a lot of ABA is behavior training. So I think that, I forgot where I was going with this. I think that with that, it taught me patience. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It taught me patience big time. And it kind of it created a stronger intuition, I think,
Hmm.
for like, like moms will always say like, oh, like you have that motherly intuition, or every woman has that motherly intuition. And I think working with kids, especially on the spectrum, really helped me kind of do identify that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely feel that too. Because it is, have you ever worked with neurotypical kids by chance?
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Yeah, and I think it's actually kind of crazy because like I see neurotypical kids and I'm always like, wow, man, their language is really good.
yeah,
Or wow, man, the way that they respond to you is really, his eye contact is amazing.
like
People look
that's
at me like I'm
great.
crazy. But I think when you work with it for so long, like you're more, it almost seems like you don't see a lot of neurotypical kids.
No, for real though. Honestly, I had one kid like it was like was in like in Target or something, and they like ran into me on accident, and I didn't like say anything. I just kind of like moved, and they like looked at me. It was a little kid, and they were like, "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to step on you." And I was like, "Oh, it's okay." And then they just like went back with their mom, and I was like, "That was so cool. That kid said that."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like
Because we're literally used to being walked on by children.
yeah,
What
just
do we say when you hit Miss Ashley?
like uh-oh, we can say. And then I just like the kid just did it, just offered it up on a silver
Yeah,
platter right in front of me. And I was like, oh, that's so good. But
yeah,
it's just, it's just what they knew to do. I didn't have to teach it.
right, right. And I think that surprises us when like there's something like, whoa, we don't have to teach. They know that. Okay, that's wild.
Like,
It is. I mean, and obviously there's a ton of neurotypical children around. I just don't know them.
I'm just not interested.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, boring.
Yeah, yeah, man. Autism is fun. It really is. It's fun.
It is fun. Um, which is like, and I feel like now that I've been doing it for a minute too, like I feel like I can like look around in a crowd and I can kind of see it. Um,
Yeah. Yes.
I
Yes,
know
for sure.
that they're like, like obviously there's no like in the box like face of autism, but I can point it out, especially like one on one, like individually. If I'm talking to somebody, I'm like, boop, I think you got a touch of it.
Yeah.
You got a little bit in you, don't you?
Well, and I think that like goes back to your intuition too. Like
Yeah.
now that your intuition is stronger, like it's not, yes, there we know that there is no general look or appearance to autism, but it's not really that. It's more of a feeling that you get.
Yeah, exactly.
Or patterns that you've seen.
Hmm.
It's I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, I feel like I can sniff it out sometimes. Um,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
then
I think that's. I mean, yeah, it's a good thing. I mean, why not?
especially in like older adults. And then it's
Yeah.
like I can't even say anything to them because I know they're going to be upset. Like personally,
Yeah.
older adults in my family, I should say. Should not
Yeah.
just overgeneralize. I don't want anybody coming for me. But personally, my family is riddled with undiagnosed adults.
Yeah. 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 I've like come across a lot of people that I've worked with, specifically men, which I think is just so interesting.
Mhm.
Specifically men that just usually their like social skills are just quirky,
Just quirky, just a little different.
just quirky. Yeah, I mean, and I also kind of think too, like I guess no matter how much ABA a person gets, those quirks are never going to go away, and I don't think
Yeah,
they're meant to. You know what I mean?
yeah. And I don't think they really need to go away. You know what I
Mm-mm.
mean? Like a person is a person. Like I am. We've talked about this before recently. That I am riddled with anxiety, and like I feel like that's just like a quirky little part of me. And I know for a lot of men that I know, they struggle to talk about topics that they're not familiar with.
Yeah,
So like
yeah,
I can only talk about NASCAR so much when I
yeah,
only know about a man named Dale. And I think
yeah,
that makes it hard.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and they're like, they struggle to like switch off of those topics.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not like you can like sit there and like transition from a new conversation. Like you would have to let it flow very in like a structured way in order
Yes.
to change topics.
Yeah. And then also too, like I've never actually like formally worked with adults. I've only worked with little ones under the age of 12.
Okay.
So
Okay.
like
Yeah, I mean, I think the oldest person on the spectrum, well, I guess, sorry, my phone's barking. I guess, well, sorry. I guess maybe between 18 and 30, maybe. Because I mean, there were also a lot of guys at the developmental center that,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I worked with so many people. So I mean, I'm sure that I ran into some over the age of 18 there.
Yeah. I'm sure. So like okay. So as an RBT, specifically an RBT, what settings have you worked in? You mentioned epicenter. Have you ever
Yeah.
worked in like a school setting or like in home? I hate in home. Have you ever worked in home?
Yeah, in home, definitely. Actually, like in home is kind of where I thrived because it was a challenge. It's a challenge to manipulate an environment that you're not familiar with.
Yep.
But I liked that, and I also liked the community that I gained with the family. If
Yeah.
you have a good family and they're on board, and you are their favorite person. You build contacts, you build relationships. In home for me just was I don't know. It made me super happy. In clinic was great. Yeah. Yeah, in clinic was great. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I like stuff a little more personable.
It was fine. It was a very classical experience.
I mean, and I guess you know the kinds of like the reasons why I don't like in clinic, although I don't feel like appropriate for a podcast. Like I guess you know the reasons why. So yeah.
Yeah. That's okay. That's okay. Have you ever done any like community stuff? Like I know that you mentioned before, I think with the older ones that you worked with that you like took them out, but like as an RBT specifically, did you like ever have to like take any of like your clients like to the park or anything?
No, not as an RBT.
Okay. Okay. I had to do that and it was stressful. But it was also just kind of like being a part of like in home, which I was already stressed out because I don't like in home anyway. So it just was not a good time for me. I've talked to other people and they really liked it. And honestly, like community just kind of seems like something that you would be very good at.
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, I've always also wanted to work in a school. I like the school setting. It's structured, and I like that.
Mhm.
I'm not a very structured person outside of work, but I do appreciate structure in work.
Yeah, same.
So school would be great. I think that yeah, it's just a big community. I really like communities, but
You do.
not really big ones like that.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like in a school, so many people can be on so many different pages.
Yeah.
Some are unwilling to get on the same page. Some aren't interested. And that's where, like, I think I would personally run into problems. Because like structure, being on the same page, sharing thoughts, sharing ideas, that's what makes a community.
There's also a lot of like politics in a school that you have to kind of like dance around sometimes.
Yeah.
And I just picture you just starting a revolution in the right setting. Like you're bringing down the patriarchy.
Yeah, I would, man, I'd love to. I'd love to. I mean, I guess you'd have to start somewhere. I guess with the school would be ideal.
Yeah, might as well.
Start small, go big. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That would be rough. I mean, because even like my girlfriend works as a school-based case management case manager with like troubled kids. I mean, she goes into different schools. She's basically like a school counselor without like the degree, I guess, even though she does have a degree in it. I don't know. Okay. So, but they call her a school-based case manager. And like some of the stories that she tells me about like principles and politics and levies not being passed. To me, it just sounds like so much hell, so much red tape that you have to go through. And I hate red tape. I wish there was a way that we could just get a big pair of scissors and cut it, but we can't. And like that, yeah. I don't have the patience for that kind of stuff anymore,
No.
you know?
You'd be like, no, I'm out of here. Like, this needs to happen, so we're going to do it right now this way. And they'd be
Yeah.
like, no, that's not the right hoop to jump through.
Yeah. And I always just see how like stressed out my girlfriend is. Like she loves her job and she's really good at it. But I mean,
No.
you know, if a teacher's not on the same page and the teacher is like, why are you pulling this kid out of class? And then she's got to explain, but then to a degree, she's breaking HIPAA. It's not a good system. Like there needs to be less red tape and more communication, more understanding, more education.
Yeah.
I think that's like the big problem.
Yeah. That's because, you know, like I've been in a school for the past few years, 2 different schools actually, and like it's really hard to explain to somebody because like the teachers' classrooms that I would have to go into, they were already heightened. So they were already, the teachers were already on 10 and the kid was on 10. And then I come in and then, you know, they divert their attention to me. Everything is like my fault. They're mad at me.
Oh, of course.
Nothing I do is right. And it's just like very, very stressful. It's really hard to just take like the brunt of that and know that like there's nothing that you can really do to change their mind. And you're just like, well, I'm here for this child. So like, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it took a lot. It took a lot to get a lot of teachers to kind of understand, like get some kind of grasp on like what an RBT was and what ABA was and like how I was there to help them too, like help them like run their classrooms. And I want to say it took like a better part of the year, almost like the entire school year, to get the teachers to like fully like understand. And once they were like on board, they were on board, but it was so much effort that could have just been, it would have been simpler for the kid and for them if they had been trained properly on ABA before the district threw us into those rooms.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's super hard because to convince grown adults of something that is beneficial, even though they don't understand it, is really, really difficult. And I mean, I'm sure that there's like egos that kind of play a part in it too, unfortunately. But it's just so important for the success of that kid. And it does take education. It does take training. Unfortunately, people who don't understand something typically aren't willing to learn it.
Yeah.
So, or that don't accept something rather aren't willing to learn it. And that's hard because then now it frustrates you. It puts more stress on you because you're not supported. You don't feel like they get it. You don't feel like they're there for the kids, or there for you. I mean, you're in there doing your job. So, I mean, that's really, really frustrating. And I could not do that. I don't have the patience for that because I don't like when people don't listen. You know what I mean? I was an ABA. Like, I don't like it when people don't listen.
Comply.
Oh, God. And just like, especially with them, like with people being grown adults, they don't have a reason to not want to understand something or to not want to help a kid. Like they don't have a reason. And that's why I feel like a lot of that, like, unfortunately, kind of dives into ego. But I guess that's a totally like way deeper conversation than what you're looking for. But
No. It definitely does. It's definitely like a big part of it. Because I can't ABA adults. You know what I mean? Not only do I just not have experience working with adults, but neurotypical grown adults who are very set in their ways and are already heightened just aren't going to listen. They're not going to look at me, somebody who was at the time in their early 20s now, you know, creeping towards the end of that. Anyway, and they're not going to just look at me and listen to me and like respect what I have to say. And maybe that's not right of them to do, but that's just the facts. Like that's just how it's going to be. And it just makes being an RBT in a school like that much harder.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. But I bet it has its advantages too. Like I bet having a classroom and a community is a lot of fun.
Oh, it is. It definitely is. Like we have like classroom parties and it's just nice. Like I really do. It really is nice. It's just the adults. The adults are always the ones that get it for me. I think that's why I also don't like in home, just because of like adults, but
Yeah. Yeah, I was generally pretty good at like being able to talk to parents.
yeah.
And I think the really big part of it too is like understanding human behavior in general
Hmm.
helps it easier to relate to parents. And most of it with parents, it came down to empathetic listening and validation.
Yeah.
And you were able to rock their world. Like
Hmm.
that's really all they needed. You kind of became their therapist sometimes.
Yeah.
And that was rewarding too, because you knew at the end of the day, like, of course, I was just your kid's therapist, but
Mhm.
you end up meaning a lot to that person.
Yeah.
And they confide in you and they talk to you about things. I guess that's probably why I got a ABA, because I realized I'd be a really good counselor.
You are going to be a good counselor. I was going to say would be, but you are going to be a good counselor.
Yeah, one day.
One day,
Yeah,
soon.
so
Just say soon. It'll happen.
soon. Yeah, soon,
Soon I'll
hopefully.
be done with school. Soon.
Soon.
Yeah,
Yeah, gotta
soon.
pass that LSW test, man.
You got it.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
You can do it. So you're not in RBT anymore. You're not in ABA anymore, correct? You're not in ABA?
No,
What
I'm
you
not an
doing
ABA
now?
anymore.
What you doing?
So now I actually work as a court appointed guardian
Oh.
for what Ohio calls them, and I'm air quoting, wards of the state.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that word, but that's what they're referred to as. The system hasn't caught up yet.
Mm-hmm.
So some of them are severely mentally ill. Most of them that we have are, but some of them are just they're older, dementia, maybe some developmental disabilities. You know, some of them are in nursing homes, some of them are in jail,
Mm-hmm.
some of them are in group homes. So, and they don't either. Typically, they don't have family or they've burnt bridges with family.
Yeah.
So they're all over the age of 18. I think the youngest one we have is 23, and the oldest one we have is 95.
95.
95, still rocking and rolling, man. She's cute.
I'm struggling here at almost 30. I can't. 95.
I know, right? Yes. 60 more years? You kidding
Girl, please.
me?
I don't need to be having an existential crisis right now.
I was literally just going to say that. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Well, my age has just been like a topic going on in my head lately. I'm like, oh my God, I'm 28. And then goes back to like the whole school thing. Cause I feel like I've just been going to school ever since I graduated high school. I literally have been one class
Ditto.
at a time. And I'm like, is this ever going to end? Why am I so
Ditto.
determined?
I hear you. Same here, girl. It's gonna happen. It's gonna
I'm gonna
happen.
be done
It
with
just takes
something
a really.
soon.
I'm in the same boat, girl. I ain't got no advice for that one. I'm in the same boat.
Just gonna keep on keeping on.
Keep on trucking. That's all you can do.
It's literally it sometimes. There's literally just like nothing else I could have done. Did you ever like think about being a BCBA?
Yeah, I mean, a couple times, I guess. I was told that I would be good at it.
Yeah.
But it just seems like more desk work, I guess, and less involvement.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely more like I'm not a behind the scenes girl. I mean, granted, that's a lot of what I do now, but I mean, I got to work my way up in the social work field somehow.
Yeah.
I like being like one on one with the kids or with several kids. I mean, I just like the direct contact. I freaking love children. Like I cannot wait to have some of my own. Like I love kids.
Little Lexi.
So I mean, yeah, I know, right? So that was a big part of like what made me stay in the field is I really when it's one thing when adults accomplish something, but when kids accomplish something and their face lights up and like their only goal in the world was to be able to complete that 5-piece puzzle and they completed that 5-piece puzzle. I mean, It is. It's rewarding and it's beautiful to watch the kids get it, to watch them grow. So I feel like if I were a BCBA, I could see that on paper,
Yeah.
which I feel like is, that's rewarding. You develop the plan, we implement it. The data reflects that you're looking at that data like, yeah, but it's not the same feeling.
It's not the same. No, that's something I'm a little bit worried about, but I don't know for sure if I'm going to do the BCBA thing or what.
Yeah.
I know for sure I'm going to be finishing school though.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, that first for sure. I mean, and if you wanted to be a BCBA, I mean, I think you would be really good at it. I think, you have the patience for it. You know what not to do. And you know what to do. Like, you've had a good support system. You've had a lot of good mentors. You've worked in a lot of places.
Yeah.
I mean, so I personally think you would be more than okay, especially if you're working in a school, because you're crafty and you're creative and you have those skills you have those talents to be able to make a classroom what it should be.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Tell me more nice things about me.
You're you're Janine Teagues. That's who you are.
Miss Teagues.
You are. You really are.
Oh, well, thank you. I really hope so. And just the same to you, like what I said before, like you are going to be like a really good social worker. You're very passionate about things, and I think that's what has like drawn me to you, is because you just like things so much, and I'm just like, yep, that's it. There we go. We don't like a lump on a log. We like someone with some drive.
Yeah. And I also I don't know. I don't like beat around the bush, and I don't take shit.
Yeah.
And that's I don't know, that's an important part of who I am. So, I mean, if I ever am in a situation where somebody is not being advocated for, they clearly need help, or they're not able to advocate for themselves. Yes, I will raise hell, and I will go up against anybody that I have to in order to get that person what they need.
Yeah.
Now, because of that, there are people that don't like me.
Yeah. Well,
I am getting much better at finding ways to very calmly provide education and not get exasperated. Because that's one thing that I've been working on really hard in this job, is just Lexi, you got to be able to lay it on the line in a professional way. You can't be a jerk, which sometimes is difficult, especially when your passion drives what you do. So,
yeah. I mean, yeah, and I've had to learn that through being an RBT, is just because I've had a good handful of people not like me, just as a person right off the bat, because they found out I was an RBT because of ABA, and they were like, no, you abuse. And I was like, never.
That's crazy.
I was like, never would I intentionally go into something to abuse.
Can we just talk about the different ends of the spectrum and how incredibly extreme of a perspective that is?
Yeah.
I mean, okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. So people who see it to be abuse, they probably correlate the word control with abuse. And they probably also think that children should learn naturally. Children shouldn't be exposed to all of this ingrained structure. It's brainwashy. I've heard it all before, and it's all BS. And I guess, sure, are there people out there who abuse it? Of course there are. There's people out there that abuse everything. If done right, if done correctly, ABA is super, super, super effective.
Yeah.
And if anything, I think that the field has gotten a little too, for lack of a better word, soft. And that I guess that's one of the big reasons why I left. When I was told that we were cutting out the physical props. We're cutting them. We're not doing them anymore. I looked at them like they were crazy, because I'm unsure.
Yeah.
I'm unsure how you're going to be able to form that muscle movement without that muscle memory, without providing physical props. We're not beating them. I think it's the idea that a stranger or a teacher or whatever is putting hands on a child who's not there stresses people out.
Yeah. And I do think that I feel like the physical prompt, like removing it, is because people have almost like taken advantage of a physical prompt. So they're like, well, they said I could put my hands on this child, so that's what I'm gonna do. And a lot of people are unchecked in that way, like teachers and other staff members who are, I've seen this in schools, just not for just like physical prompts, but so we're trained in like restraints. And then, like we only use them if the kid is in danger, somebody else is in danger, or if there is like property destruction, particularly glass. So anything anyone could like get hurt on. We trained a bunch of people at Euclid, like the first year they trained a bunch of people to restrain, but then there was no like, what is the word? Like nobody like checked in on anybody after the initial training, and all of these random kids were getting restrained. And their excuse was like, well, we were trained to do it, so we should be able to do it.
Well, and those are the kinds of people, Ashley, that can't read a room and don't understand what's necessary and what's not.
Agreed.
Those are the type of people who should probably be working in the food industry, if I'm being honest. Like, if that's how you judge situations, is to put hands on something or someone, like, you're not very smart. I mean, and maybe that sounds really mean, but I mean, if you can't find another way to manipulate your environment and get that child to reach a target behavior, then you suck.
Exactly.
Then you shouldn't be an ABA therapist. I think that is a reflection of the people who ABA centers hire, and not a reflection of ABA.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that because a physical prompt can be used effectively, I think
1000%.
that the fear now is just like the manhandling of it. So they're just like, okay, fine, then we're just going to cut it all out. Because I think that there's been more bad situations reported than good situations documented. So they're just like, okay, all done. We're going to be all done with that.
Yeah. And
the
I'm
only thing I
sure.
can think of.
I mean, and really, I think when you think about it, like that physical prompt genuinely is used when a child really does not have that part of receptive language down.
Yeah.
Like that physical prompt is strictly for muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people forget that.
Yeah, they do. Or they just don't understand it.
I definitely think that there is a way that you can get a child to respond without having to physically prompt them. You just have to be creative.
Definitely. And it's just, people don't want to get creative. They just want the result now.
Oh, yeah. Americans are all about convenience. Yeah. What's easiest for me? How can I make this easy? How can I get this done and over with? I'm sorry. I'm going on a rant now.
No, you're fine. That's what this is for. Rant away. But actually, so we are about to close out.
Okay.
So, Lexi, thank you for joining us on this episode of Behavior Techs Anonymous. I like to close out with reading one of the ethics codes.
Beautiful. Let's hear it.
Okay, so we're on section 2 of the ethics code. It's 2.2. And it says, RBTs follow the direction of their supervisors accurately, implement behavior technician services accurately, and accurately complete all required documentation. Example, client data and billing records. So it's important, I guess.
It's super important to document.
Yeah.
Super important to document. Documentation is everything.
Gotta document everything, or you're going to end up not being able to do physical prompts.
Right, exactly.
All right. But that is the end of this episode of Behavior Techs Anonymous. For those listening, I post every 2 weeks on Tuesdays, so every 2 Tuesdays. You can come back and you can hear more from behavior technicians like me and Miss Lexi.